This episode of the podcast is brought to you by headbed.com.au. Hey everyone, before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to share something special. In episode 305, I interviewed Catherine Randabell, the inventor of Headbed, a product revolutionizing hair salons, especially for stroke survivors. The Headbed provides excellent neck and head support during hair washes, reducing strain and promoting better blood flow. For stroke survivors, this means lowering the risk of arterial damage and easing the concerns about another stroke. It ensures a safe, enjoyable salon experience. I'm thrilled to support a product that aligns with my mission of stroke prevention and safety. In our interview, Catherine explained how Headbed's ergonomic design prevents neck hyperextension, a common issue increasing stroke risk. With the Headbed, you can feel confident and comfortable at the salon knowing your health is prioritized. If you're a stroke survivor or know someone who is, the Headbed is a must have for your next salon visit. Check out episode 305 for my full interview with Catherine and learn how this product can make a difference. For those in the United States, visit headbedusa.com to get yours today and enjoy peace of mind at the salon. Now, I'd also like to mention my book, The Unexpected Way That a Stroke Became the Best Thing That Happened: 10 Tools for Recovery and Personal Transformation. It features inspiring stories from 10 stroke survivors and offers hope for those on the road to recovery. For more information, visit recoveryafterstroke.com/book or search my name, Bill Gasiamis, on Amazon. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Recovery After Stroke podcast. This is episode 310, and my guest today is Deven Matthews. Deven's story is a powerful reminder of the importance of prioritizing our health. Deven was living with undiagnosed high blood pressure and diabetes, which resulted in a sudden stroke that changed his life. In this compelling episode, Deven shares his journey of resilience and recovery, detailing the symptoms that led to his stroke, the challenges he faced during his treatment, and the incredible steps he took to reverse his type 2 diabetes without medical intervention. We also discussed the emotional and mental struggles post-stroke, the significance of community support, and the importance of maintaining a balance between work and personal life. Deven Matthews, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Bill. It's really a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for having me.
It is my pleasure also. Thank you for being here. Tell me a little bit about what happened to you.
Well, 2 years ago, February, I had an ischemic stroke. It was it landed on the left side of my brain, so my right side is affected, and it was a scare. Stroke is something I never would have even anticipated happening. Like many people who have strokes, it's a total surprise. I had undiagnosed high blood pressure and undiagnosed diabetes, so a horrible combination. And I woke up one morning, and sure enough, it was happening. And it just, I don't know, like most of your listeners and the other people I've heard on these podcasts, it's alarming, it's startling, it's frightening, and it's a life-changing event.
Deven, pardon my ignorance. How did you not know you had both high blood pressure and diabetes? How do you go about life not experiencing any negative impacts of those conditions? I don't get it.
Good question. Um, a lot of it was turning a blind eye, I will admit. A lot of it was I was extremely busy working a lot and I didn't have time to be sick or take care of myself. So it kind of just went undiagnosed and caught up with me. So my advice now is go see your doctor at least 3 times, 4 times a year, and don't be afraid of what they're going to say because the alternative is worse, you know?
I reckon busyness has put a lot of people into an early grave.
Yes, I would agree.
So what does busyness mean for you? Like, what was that like? I have the same issue when I first went through all of my two brain hemorrhages, the first two, but most importantly, the first one. I ignored the numbness down my left side for 7 days.
Wow.
And it was because I was busy. I had work to do. I had a client to please. I needed to get paid. I needed to do all those things other than stop for 5 minutes and go and spend some time at a doctor and tell them what my symptoms were. My wife tried to convince me to go. My chiropractor tried to convince me to go. I argued with both of them. And when I eventually went, they said to me, "We found a bleed in your brain."
Mhm.
Um, and what was your busy schedule like? Like how many hours a day? What kind of work were you doing?
Just well, I'm a married man. My wife and I is a fantastic. We've been married 27 years. We have 6 kids, say no more. So between working full time and running 6 kids around, it was just crazy busy times. And it's a regret that I'll now have to live with forever. But I've certainly learned from the stroke to just slow down and don't take life so seriously. I mean, like you, there was a stress of earning a living and keeping the income coming and kids to soccer and piano lessons and wherever they were going and keeping up with them and ×6. And so it was difficult. It was fun. And I don't blame my family. I don't blame anything. It's completely my responsibility. And I've learned clearly.
Did your kids ever hear no from you? I can't take you to band practice. I can't take you to soccer. You have to find your own way there. Did they ever hear no from you guys?
No, and I have to give credit to my wife too. She's just as busy with the kids as I am. And I don't want to say they took up all of her time because the good part of what I was doing was working as well. And so I don't know, you gotta make sure your priorities are in the right spot. And your health is definitely one of those priorities that needs to be near the top.
And it's about balance. It's also about being there for the kids, doing the right thing for the family, supporting everyone, and then also giving yourself the same privilege.
Right, right. Trying to stay sane the whole time.
Yeah. Um, what are the ages of the children? What do they range from?
At the time, my oldest was 23, my youngest was 8. So it's just a big wide range, mostly adult children. And so that doesn't require as much care as the other ones. But the years leading up to it, I just developed a very, very busy lifestyle and caught up with me.
Mm. On the day of the onset, what were some of the symptoms that you experienced that you thought something's not right? Did you think something's not right? I need to do something about this. How did you uh, go about dealing with what was happening on the actual day?
Well, it was a Sunday morning, and I woke up about 9, Sunday, sleeping a little bit. And it just felt weird. I've heard your guests on this podcast said that before, but something just felt off, weird, not really. See, you're shaking your head. You probably remember. It just feels off. Something's weird. And I felt that way. And I laid in bed for an hour and scrolled on the telephone, like you do. And then I decided, okay, I'll get up and get ready. So I got up and I just felt off balance. It felt like somebody was pushing my left side over. So I was like falling, like walking on a moving train, the same type of feeling, right? And I got up and went into the bathroom. And as I walked into the bathroom, I hit my shoulder against the door frame. And I thought, what? How did I miss the door frame? I mean, for my whole life, I've never done that. And got in the shower. And in the shower, I reached for the bar of soap with my right hand and I missed. And I was like, what is going on? Got out, got dressed. Everything was still weird, wonky. And I went to the kitchen and I thought, I'll eat something. I peeled a banana and I completely missed my mouth. I was thought something is way off. Now this should have been enough signs, but the thing that finally pushed me over was it was a Sunday, like I said, and I played the organ for my congregation at church. I played the piano since I was 8 years old. I used to. Now I play one-handed. Um, and I went to my piano here to practice the songs for that service that day, and my right hand was missing all the notes. And like I said, I've been playing since I was 8 years old, and I knew something's weird. Something's weird. And I Googled my symptoms, and it said stroke.
If you've had a stroke and you're in recovery, you'll know what a scary and confusing time it can be. You're likely to have a lot of questions going through your mind. Like, how long will it take to recover? Will I actually recover? What things should I avoid in case I make matters worse? Doctors will explain things, but obviously you've never had a stroke before. You probably don't know what questions to ask. If this is you, you may be missing out on doing things that could help speed up your recovery. If you're finding yourself in that situation, stop worrying and head to recoveryafterstroke.com, where you can download a guide that will help you. It's called 7 Questions to Ask Your Doctor About Your Stroke. These 7 questions are the ones Bill wished he'd asked when he was recovering from a stroke. They'll not only help you better understand your condition, they'll help you take a more active role in your recovery. Head to the website now, recoveryafterstroke.com, and download the guide. It's free.
So I went to my wife, who was getting ready for church, in the bathroom, and I said, "Hey, I think I'm having a stroke." And she looked at me and her face froze. And she said, "Deven, your right side is totally drooping." I said, "Let's go." Luckily, the hospital is only like 3 minutes from my house. She jumped in the car. I gave the kids a kiss goodbye just because I didn't know where I was going to. And I walked into the ER. I was halfway across the parking lot with Rachel, and the guy came out and said, "What's wrong with you?" And I said, "I think I'm having a stroke." And he said, "Stop, don't move." He brought a wheelchair. I'm sure it was liability reasons. He rolled me in, and the doctors just went to town. "Raise your arms. Okay, can you follow my finger with your eyes," things like that. And they said, "Get it back there." And sure enough, ischemic stroke.
Yeah. Were you a lot heavier at the time?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
How much heavier?
Ooh, I was over 300 pounds. I've lost 110 pounds since my stroke.
Okay. I have to convert that to kilos because
Oh, I'm so sorry.
no, that's all right. It happens every episode. Most of my guests are overseas. So 300 pounds to kilos, it's 136 kilos. That's quite heavy, and you've lost 120 pounds. Yeah, 54 kilos. You know, that's the size, the full grown adult, 54 kilos. That's another person of some.
Right. I dropped another person. So
Yeah.
that's one good thing
Okay.
that's come from stroke, right?
Okay. So definitely then, if somebody had seen you without the droopiness and all that kind of stuff in a hospital setting and you thought you felt unwell, they would have asked you the questions. Have you had your blood pressure checked? Have you got diabetes? That kind of stuff. They would have definitely asked you those things because often those conditions come hand in hand with people who are heavy.
Right. Yeah.
Um, so at that stage, they've uh, they've given you the red carpet treatment,
Mhm.
and
They put
then what happened?
I'm sorry. Yeah, they put me in the bed. They put a TPA through me,
Uh
the
huh.
CAT scan, the MRI, the whole 9 yards. And the doctors kept saying, they come in every 20 minutes or so and say, "Raise both arms," because so they could see how the right was compared to the left and stuff like that. And I could do pretty well, but slowly through over the hours, the right arm was weaker and weaker and weaker until finally I couldn't move it. Same with my right leg. They would ask me to move my foot up and down my left leg, like side of my ankle across my leg, and eventually I couldn't do it. So I was there completely paralyzed on my right side. And the ironic thing is, I didn't know much about stroke, clearly. Um, but I had heard things like people lose their cognitive ability to recall their memories, their a lot of learning language, things like that. And I thought to myself, I don't want to lose my memory. I don't want to lose memories of my kids, my memories of my wife. So what can I do? So while I was laying there in the bed, I was reviewing music theory in my head. I was saying things like, okay, the key of D has two sharps, it's an F and C, and the key of A flat major has four flats. And I was going over music theory over and over and over, hoping I could hold on to it. Luckily, I mean, I did. I didn't lose any of that. I can still read music and still, like I said, play the piano one-handedly. But I do miss being able to play both hands, obviously. So I like to say that the scales, the arpeggios, that saved my cognitive mind while laying in the hospital bed. I don't know
Why
if it's
not?
true, but I can say it.
Yeah. Well, why not say that? Also, the
Yeah,
location of the stroke wasn't impacting that part of your brain.
exactly.
So that was good. And do you know where the blood clot kind of stopped, where it landed, which part of the
I
brain?
don't. And I tried to do some research for this podcast so I could have that information for you, and I just didn't find out in time.
Yeah, that's okay. So then you've spent some time in hospital. How much time?
I was there 5 days. First night in the ER, 2 nights in ICU, and then one night in a regular room, so I guess 4 nights. And then I was shipped out to a rehabilitation hospital where I was for 3 weeks.
Uh-huh. And in those 3 weeks, what did you have to overcome? Clearly your right hand, but what else?
The right foot, being able to walk. You figure that first night in the ER, even I couldn't sit up, I couldn't roll over, I couldn't get comfortable, I couldn't move anything on my right side. So the long haul back to being mobile started in the rehab hospital, because in the hospital there was no PT or OT or speech therapy. Even that didn't start until I went to the facility um, over at rehab. But again, once I was in rehab, I was actually very happy because I had physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy at least once a day, at least once, sometimes even twice. And I welcomed it. Anybody that would come in and help me, I welcomed it because I saw them as my key ticket to get back to normal, whatever normal is, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So they come in, I'd be like, what? Let's do it. Let's get up. Let's move. Let's something. I remember the first night, the first day, they had to put me on this machine to even stand me up. And it looked like some medieval torture device, but they wrapped my hands around the top and it lifted me up and I got to stand up and I felt so good because I was doing it on my own, but I had to eventually learn how to do it without the machine.
Yeah. With the right leg now, how does that feel day to day?
Now, decent. My right leg is probably recovered again. It's been 2 years and 3 months. I probably have about 80% of my leg back totally. My big hang up is the ankle. My ankle just won't budge a little bit, but not a lot. Arm, again, I have probably about 60%. Wrists and fingers are hard. That's why where the piano doesn't really happen on that hand. But I can move a lot with my arm, just not as well as most.
When you were in hospital, did they then immediately diagnose diabetes and high blood pressure?
Yes, and put me on meds for it right away. I'm still on meds for it. I'm happy to say though that I got my A1C down to 4. So they said you're no longer considered a diabetic. So that's good news. They took me off of insulin. For the high blood pressure, still on meds.
Yeah. The
I just
insulin,
I monitor it now much more often than I have a thing here at home. So
type 2 diabetes is one of those conditions that people don't realize how much they can reverse it, how easy it is to reverse. Well,
right.
I know I said the word easy, but it can be reversed without medical intervention, right?
Correct. Yeah.
How easy was it for you to lose the weight and reverse it?
The first month is simple because I was in the hospital. They controlled everything I ate, right? I wasn't on my own to drive through McDonald's or go to I get ice cream, no more. And when I got out of the hospital, I just stayed on that zero sugar diet. I mean, yes, I eat fruit, and if there's sugar in like a piece of bread, okay, but I do not eat any refined sugars, cookies, cakes, soda. I cut soda totally out of my diet. That was not easy because I was drinking quite a bit of soda before. But again, like you said, I don't like to use the word easy, but it's not difficult to cut that stuff out of your life. After a week or two, you kind of lose the craving for it. There's
Mm.
obviously a hump, a curve, but once you get over that hump, it's kind of smooth sailing. Even now, today, I drink one soda a year. On my birthday, I'll go get a soda and enjoy it, and that's it. I nurse that thing. I make it last all day, and no soda at all. And so it's things like that. I drink a lot of water. It's fine. Do I miss Coke and Mountain Dew? Well, yes, but I know the alternative is to be back in the hospital with a second stroke, and I don't want that. So,
I'm with you. I stopped drinking sodas. I'd say it was 3 or 4 months after my first two bleeds.
okay.
And I used to drink Coke. And people, when I'd visit people, my brother or whoever at their home, they knew if I was coming over that they should have Coke there because if they had Pepsi or if they had another one, I'd be like, no, I'll just have a water. And they didn't want to disappoint me, so they would get me a Coke. And my thing was ice. So the glass needed to be full to the top of ice. And then you pour the Coke over the top, which isn't a lot of Coke. Most of it stays in the can, right? And
Okay.
then you sip it through and then you keep refilling the ice with Coke. And then it's always frosty and cold and amazing and
Delicious.
just fabulous. And then really bad for you at the same time without knowing it, you know?
Right. Right.
Um,
I
so
hear you.
yeah, so I stopped doing it. And then every once in a while, very, very rarely, I reckon in the last 12 years, I'll be lucky if I've had 5 cans in total
Oh,
of soda.
wow. Good. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
That's
it
great.
is. So on your birthday, you get a can of Coke or Mountain Dew. Which one do you prefer?
A Coke. Absolutely
Yeah,
Coke.
yeah.
Yeah.
The original recipe, right?
Yes. Classic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Good.
Um, when is your birthday?
In March 26th.
March 26th. So you've just turned 50?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Well, I'm turning 50 in a week from now, and
Oh, happy birthday. Okay.
I might celebrate it with, I don't know whether it'll be with a Coke, but it might be alcohol. I might have a drink of alcohol, which I very rarely have.
Well, that'll be a great birthday.
Yeah. Um, so then you've gone through rehab and then you've come home. What was it like coming home? How did you cope with the transition from hospital to home?
Obviously, huge um, adjustment. I was in a wheelchair, and so I had to learn to navigate that. Um, Luckily, thank goodness, is we had a home where the master bedroom was downstairs. Thank goodness, and we didn't know when we bought the house I was going to have a stroke, so that was a blessing. So I didn't have to worry about stairs, and the I just had to learn to navigate the wheelchair around. It was hard because you lose all ability to do things like the dishes or laundry or a mess. And with that many kids living in the house, even adult children, there's a lot of dishes and laundry and mess, and it was hard to just kind of let it go by. It was also hard because I was always on asking my wife for help and there's laundry and can you do this and that and can you help me take a shower, can you help me get into bed, can you help me, and she's got the other kids to worry about. Again, luckily most of them were adults, but there was still the need. When you have kids, they don't ever really stop needing you, right? So
Hmm.
it was just a huge adjustment. But and on top of that, the thing that I've heard your guests talk about before is the emotional, the depression, the sadness that just out of nowhere you're in tears and you're crying. And my wife is saying, "What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong?" And you're saying, "Nothing really. It's nothing really." And back up a little bit. When I was in the hospital that first night, the first night in the ER, after my wife went home and it was like 2 in the morning and I was alone, I just burst into tears. And I don't know if it was fear of the unknown, it was what's going to happen. It was, you figure I was the benefit carrier for our family health insurance. And so I couldn't just quit, stop working, um, all this unknown. Am I going to be a vegetable? Am I ever going to be able to move again? Am I going to be able to play piano again? That was all those little things. And I just cried and cried and cried. And a nurse walked in and just patted my hand and, oh, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And I thought, no, it's not. But if myself now could tell myself then what it's going to be like, I could explain that it's not as bad as I think it is. But once I was home, back to that, the emotional ups and downs and roller coasters, it was hard to be social. It was hard to be fun. It was hard to be laughy. It was hard to be teasing the kids. It was just very gray and hard. So not only the physical, but the mental side of everything.
Mm. Did you seek out someone to support you with that, to help you with that?
I talked to my primary care, and her answer was medicine. Well, give me some medicine, it'll be fine, but here's all the side effects. And I thought, oh gosh, I don't want to put my body through anything else. So I decided to just not self-medicate, but therapy myself. I got books, I went online, I read a ton of information, including things you had written and posts you had written and things like that. And people in your podcast. And it just I've learned that the emotional and mental depression that comes with the stroke in various levels is kind of a given. And so if they can just work through it, it gets better. And clearly today, I'm not as bad as I was 2 years ago. And not very close. It seemed like the 2 year mark, I went over a hump emotionally, and it's been so much better. But man, those first couple of years, it was tough feelings of despair and defeat, and what you're doing is hard work, which adds to it, and it was not easy, but you get through it, whatever choice you have.
Yeah. It's not quite your mindset giving up on you, is it? It's more your emotional state and perhaps having emotional experiences that you'd never dealt with before. So you didn't really have a catalog of how to overcome it or resolve it. It sounds like your mindset was still pretty upbeat, but your emotional state was the one that was taking a bit of a was challenged.
Yes, that's absolutely right. Perfect.
Hmm. Your at the beginning when we spoke, you mentioned that that Sunday you were getting ready to go to church. How soon after you got back from home were you able to get back to church?
Well, again, I didn't want to accept the stroke as a change in my life. I knew it was. I now would know it is, but I was like, no, just keep going. So I took a couple weeks off, and then I went to church in a wheelchair. I had my wife push me in a wheelchair, and it was good to see people. It was good to be involved. In fact, in all aspects of my life, I tried not to let the stroke impact too much what was going on. Even in my work, when I had my stroke, I teach for a living, and I teach at a college actually. And the day after my stroke, I called my boss and I said, "Hey, I had a stroke." He said, "Ooh, okay, we'll cancel the classes, we'll get you substitutes." And I said, "No, no, 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 no. I have 2 classes that meet on campus once a week. Can I take those classes and just have them meet online for a few weeks?" And he was like, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Please." He said, "Okay." And then I already had 3 classes online. So I now had 5 classes all online. And that second night, I called the nurse and I said, "Can you put me in a wheelchair?" And I rolled a table over and I sat on my laptop and I taught my classes from the hospital. I didn't do live lectures. I just would answer the questions and assignments and everything. And the nurse was like, "What are you doing?" I said, "Working. I have to make money. Someone's going to pay for the hospital bill, right?" And She said, this is probably really good for your brain to just kind of keep going, in obviously in a way different than what you are. But I'll tell you, 5 weeks later, I was back in the classroom. I sent an email to my students and I said, class will be back on campus this week. And again, I had my wife take me in the wheelchair and I lectured from my wheelchair. And my voice is not the same as it was before. Most stroke patients or survivors will say that. And so I was speaking slower, and the words were not as fluent as they were in the past. I had graduated speech therapy by then, but you can tell even now there's still a little bit of numbness in my mouth that causes me to talk a little bit funny. But I didn't let it stop me. I just kept working and working and working. So once I was home, I still had my desk and everything. I rolled my wheelchair up to it, and I would teach and do grades and everything else. And I just kept going in a hope that it would kind of normalize my life, and the part that was completely abnormal would kind of learn to fit in. And I think it has.
Good. Often you'd hear stroke survivors say they went back to work too soon and then they
Mm.
realized that they needed to not do that and then change things. And it's good to try and go back as soon as you can, because that is a sense of getting back to a routine, a rhythm, to being, to being kind of close to your old identity and all those types of things. It is good. And I th- and whether you're up for it or not, uh your brain's going to be the judge of that, and it's going to give you the feedback, and it's going to say, you went back to work too early, my friend. You need to go
Mm.
home and do nothing. Or
Right.
this is good for us. We're loving it. And it is good. And I love the fact that you did that. I was working from my hospital bed as well, sending emails and making phone calls more than anything the first time. I was in there for about a week. I wasn't doing too much, but I was doing enough to kind of keep the business ticking, because without me there, there's no business, and without the business, there's no money. Um,
Hello.
Same reason, right? Uh, and then we, and then I realized the second time after the second bleed, things got worse and I wasn't able to work. It was actually counterproductive to be at work, because it would wipe me out and I wouldn't be productive and doing the right things anyway. And it was too risky for me to be at work for several months until things started to improve again. Um, and then I went back to work as quickly as I could once again. I mean, if we're not working, even if our pursuits are not our passion, even if our pursuits are not, um, the most noble or whatever they are, it's still great to be able to get up and go somewhere, even if it's not work for money, even if it's just volunteering. And I did a lot of, when I couldn't work for money, I was volunteering for the Stroke Foundation. I'd go and do presentations on stroke prevention and awareness and know the signs of stroke. And that gave you a sense of purpose, something to put your shoes on for, to get ready for, to plan for. Um, and a lot of the times I failed at that as well. I failed because I forgot about a presentation that I needed to do. And then I would
Oh,
get the phone call. Are you on your way to the presentation? I'm like, what presentation?
oh, oh no. Oh no.
Yeah. And then I'd look at my diary and then I'd notice the calendar reminded me yesterday, it reminded me this morning, and still all of those things weren't enough to get me there. So like it's still good to have something to aim towards to overcome all of this stuff, even if it's not work, and even if you're in a bad way, even if you're really unwell, whatever it is that you can do, it because it kind of uplifts the soul, you know, allows you to focus on something else, gives you a little bit of sense of purpose and a little bit of meaning. And as hard as it is, you still got to try and then reassess once you're in that situation, and then make a decision as to whether you're going to keep going down that path or not. But I think like I think it's like a bit of a muscle, the more you train the brain to get to work and overcome the challenges and be gentle to it and kind to it, the more that you're helping it rehabilitate and you're helping it get better. So how busy are you now at work and at home? Is it the same amount of busyness, or have you found a way to be a little less busy and more kind of conscious of how much time and effort you're putting into other things?
Yes, obviously the latter. I mean, I make sure I don't push myself. I take time to, I don't know, just make sure I'm taking care of myself and taking care of things that need to be done. Yes, I'm still working and I love it. Um, but I've obviously my day is spent more with my physical well-mindedness, if that's a word.
Mm.
I exercise a lot. I go for walks every single day. In fact, when I was about a month after I was in the rehabilitation hospital, I went to a stroke support group, and I met a woman who had been away from her stroke for about 2 years. And she said, let me give you some advice. When you um, run out, your insurance stops paying for physical therapy, go out and hire yourself a personal trainer. She said, I've done it and it's been the best thing ever. And so I've done that. And I spend most of my days now, if I'm not with the trainer, exercising myself here at home, whether it's going out for a walk or I'll walk around my kitchen island, do my little leg lifts, and I lay on my bed, do my arm lifts, and I work my core. And so I spend my time now working out my physical body so that I can maintain my recovery as well as my health. And so I would say I'm just as busy, to answer your question, Bill, but it's just doing different things. I'm not so much crazy busy trying to boost my career or do this or do that, but I'm just trying to fill my time with other things that are more meaningful.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's good, because there is crazy busy. That busy is probably the one that's not useful. Maybe not helpful all the time, but it's necessary to be crazy busy sometimes. But I think ongoing, it's a bit unsustainable. That is what we've seemed to learn. That's what I've learned about that, is that it's unsustainable and it doesn't lead to a good outcome. It can often lead to a negative outcome where we ignore the symptoms of stroke and keep going.
Yeah.
That's not good. That's crazy busy. And then I'm very busy now as well, because I record my podcasts on a Saturday and a Sunday and sometimes a Friday, which means that takes a lot of my time, but it's pleasurable.
Yeah.
It's fun. I mean, people from all around the world, we share common thoughts, values, ideas, struggles, and it's a completely different version of busy, and it gives me back. It energizes me instead of drains me and makes me tired and makes me unwell. So,
Now, let me ask you something. Would you rather be working on your podcast or working on your book? How was that?
the book is a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing. I'll tell you why. Because you have creative blocks, and I would consider myself a creative, but I never went down the path of creating something like a music track or a novel or anything like that. I never did any of those things, even though it was obviously in me. And the problem that the book caused was, when I wasn't writing, I was always thinking about the fact that I wasn't writing. And when I was writing and couldn't write, I was frustrated because I really desperately wanted to write, but I couldn't write. It's such a
Okay.
cruel, cruel thing to do to somebody. And as a result of that, I dragged that out for 2 years. The writing part of it, I dragged out for 2 years. The research part was 2 years, but that was more enjoyable, more pleasurable. And that was more about trying to find the pattern, trying to understand things, to make the idea that stroke was the best thing that had to happen to me, like, interesting and to make it something that people would be curious about, interested to read, to not be confronted by the fact that I said that about a stroke. So that part was a really cool part because there was nothing to do other than think about it. It was all just, listen to somebody's story, think about it, develop the idea, and then just sit with it, let it just bubble away. But then it was putting pen to paper. And what happens, of course, is then I go through all those other things, like being conscious of the fact that I am not a literary type. I don't
Mm.
write for a living. I don't know how to write properly. Is this going to be good enough? Who am I to write a book? Why would I write a book? Who's going to want to read my book? When they do, it's probably going to be terrible anyway. Do you know, I went through all of that stuff. So, oh man, I wouldn't change it for anything. I
Mm.
love occupying my time writing the book, but it's more fun interviewing people, having podcasts because there's nothing to do afterwards. It's just to
Yeah,
edit it
right.
and
Okay.
make it live. It just
Good.
it just gives back. That's it. It's not hard. It's not difficult for me to overcome. It's
Right.
interesting. Yeah. W-
Well, you're doing amazing. That's absolutely true.
Yeah, thank you. I think it is amazing. I mean, the guy that I was before stroke doesn't do any of these things. Like I am very aware that I am not the same person. I am out of that. Like I'm just I'm an evolved version of myself. I'm completely aware of it, and I'm not trying to say that I'm perfect in every way. I'm not. I'm just doing things that I love that are different. I would have spent many Saturdays working, and I won't spend a Saturday working for the rest of my life if I can manage it. Like I'm dead against it. Um, it means that you miss out on a little bit of extra money and all that type of thing, but it's okay. Um, I've done enough work and I do enough hours Monday to Friday where I think I would be grumpy if I had to go to work 6 days a week,
Right.
every week, and I'd be the same guy I was that I didn't like before the stroke. What's the point of that? I didn't want to be that guy.
Yeah. Right. Very true.
Um, so what's it like when the kids kind of work out that you're unwell and young one, 8 years old, probably a difficult conversation, 23-year-old, probably different for another reason. How do you navigate all those conversations with the kids and so many different personalities?
Um, Again, I have to give most of the credit to my wife. She's amazing. She's just an amazing woman. But yeah, the older kids were scared. The younger ones were scared for different reasons. And now they're really adjusted. My physical therapist asked me how, like on my third visit with them, he said, "How's your youngest one dealing with you having a stroke?" And I said, "I think I mean, he's 8. He just kind of accepts it. He doesn't, he's I mean, afraid daddy may die, but he knows I'll die someday, you know?" But he said in his experience as a physical therapist, when the stroke survivor has young kids, those kids gain a keen awareness of disabilities and differences in people and acceptance. And I was like, that's something I never ever would have thought of before. And so now I try and watch my younger because I have now he's 10 and the second youngest is 15. I watch them and they're just so they know I take a little extra time to get in the car. They know I take a little extra time to, get out of the house or take a shower or whatever. But they're just fine with it because it's part of their life. And so hopefully that will extend it outside of their just immediate circle. Not that my other children wouldn't feel that way, but with my younger two who are still at home, you figure I only have those two at home now. They're much more accepting of a disabled person, I think. Not that my others aren't, but they live with it. They see it. So it's more of a commonplace thing.
They're less ignorant.
There we go. That's perfect. Yes.
Yeah. And we were more ignorant, and not through our fault, our own fault. Like, it's just the way it was. So you never came
Yeah.
across it and you didn't know. And then I had to be in a wheelchair for an amount of time. And then I realized what life's like being in a wheelchair. And even though it
Mhm.
was a short amount of time, it gave me a very deep understanding of the difficulties that people face on a daily basis, and the needs, and my needs increased. I had more needs to have other people support me, help me, etc. And I I've often said this in the podcast, but and it always sounds terrible when I say it, but I always just thought people in wheelchairs were just sitting down.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
you don't connect the reason that they're sitting down to anything, because you don't. I've never had that experience, so I never understood the emotional difficulties with being in a wheelchair, the mental difficulties with being in a wheelchair, the physical disabilities with being in a wheelchair, or the challenges that somebody in a wheelchair has to overcome. Like, where when somebody's able-bodied, everyone complains about, oh, how hard things are and all the challenges and all the problems and all the things. And then somebody who's in a wheelchair is already recovering from potentially a stroke or something like that. So they've got a lot to deal with because of the stroke. And now they have all this physical stuff that they've got to overcome. So not only have they been given this neurological condition, now they've got to overcome, with a neurological condition, all the physical aspects of the challenge, right? So it's like completely out of balance, the amount of challenges that somebody, with a stroke who's in a wheelchair has to overcome is so out of balance compared to people who are not in there. And it's like, okay, now you can be Bill, you can be a little more empathetic, a little more patient, a little more understanding, and lived experience makes the world of difference. And that's kind of what your youngest have got. They've got a very amazing lesson, something that's going to really make a positive impact to the way they
Right.
navigate the world. It's important.
Exactly. So they're doing good.
You would have want, I mean, how good would it be to learn all those lessons without somebody you love going through stroke? But sometimes it's the only way to learn.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
So remember those early days when you had the depressive symptoms and all those other
Right.
challenges? How yourself healing, did you draw on your religious views, beliefs to help guide you with overcoming those challenges? How did the role that your church played in your life support in that space?
Well, absolutely a huge portion. I mean, having a basic Christian belief in Jesus, the resurrection, the atonement, things like that, kept me moving. The promise of a someday perfect body. Those beliefs really helped me move along. And regardless of what I'm facing in this life, as far as disabilities or inabilities, one day they will be taken from me. On top of that, on top of the basic religious belief that is in my core, are the mental thoughts of a better existence now. Okay, I can't change that I had a stroke. I can't change that I walk with a limp or I talk funny or I can't play the piano. Well, what can I do? Years ago, I used to listen to talk radio before podcasts, before the internet, and there was this psychiatrist, psychologist who would tell a story that you might have heard before. I might have heard it even on the show about a boy who goes to his grandfather, and his grandfather says, son, how is your life? How is your relationship with your friends, your parents? How are you doing? Like being good, being bad? How's life going on? And the boy looked at his grandpa and said, it's hard. I want to be a good boy, a good Christian, if you will. But there's another part of me that wants to be kind of bad. And sometimes I want to do the right thing and tell the truth and do well with my grades at school. But then sometimes I'm lazy. I want to lie or this and that. And the little boy, he was just so, exasperated. He said, it's like there's two tigers inside of me and they're fighting. And the good tiger wins, but then sometimes the bad tiger wins. And he looked at his grandfather and he said, Grandpa, which one is going to win? And the grandfather, in his wisdom, said, the tiger that wins is the tiger that you feed. Whichever one you feed is going to win. And I love that story. It can be applied to so many things. And so once I had the stroke and I was just thinking or meditating and a thought came in my head, I thought, okay, there's two tigers inside of me right now. The recovery tiger that wants to get up and walk and not be in pain and just get over this thing. And then there is the self-pity tiger. And the one who wants to lay in bed and cry and, oh, poor me, why this happened to me? And those are the two tigers that I think still today, 2 years, 3 months out, I'm still fighting. I think everybody fights those two tigers in some way in their life. I'm just relating it to stroke. So for your stroke survivors who have listened or listening to this, think about that. Is your recovery tiger winning or is your self-pity tiger winning? Because the one that's going to win is the one you feed. And so with my faith in God and my religious beliefs, I can take that level of the tigers and fight, knowing that what I do is going to make a difference in my recovery and in my mindset and in my ability to move on with life. And yeah, there's still sad days. Yeah, there's still self-pities. Yeah, there still is a thought, why did I have a stroke? Why not? There's other fat guys out there. How come they don't have strokes? Things like that. But in the end, how I feed my tigers is how I'm going to win. So when I get up and I go for my walk and I work out for a half hour and then I work on the computer for school or read an article, whatever it is, I'm feeding the recovery tiger. And that I think is a message that every stroke recovery person should consider. Feed the tiger that's going to recover, not the other one. Because the other one's.
I love that. And the easy way to do that is the more time you spend feeding the recovery tiger, reading a book, listening to a podcast, understanding how to overcome your challenges, rehabilitating yourself physically, emotionally, mentally, then there's no space for the other tiger. There just isn't any.
Right. That's great. Yes, absolutely.
And then the other one just kind of whittles away, and every once in a while it kind of tries to pop up and say hello, and it's like, I heard what you had to say. I'm not interested in in the rest of the conversation.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. I get the same thing.
I like what you said about educating yourself, listening to podcasts. Your podcast is one I listen to on my walks, but even joining support groups. I have an online stroke support group that we meet every single week. And it's just, sometimes I go and I don't say a thing. I just kind of listen. Sometimes I chime in, but it just gives you hope that there's people out there that are going through what you're going through and they can understand you. I have a very dear friend who is he is a recovering alcoholic and drug addict, and he attends Alcoholic Anonymous meetings, and he compared his recovery to my recovery. And he said, I had an addiction and I had major problems and I had things I couldn't overcome. Just like Deven, you have things you're trying to overcome and you can't. But you meet with these people who also have these same exact, I'll say problems, I don't like that word, but the same exact situation that you have. Just like he goes and meets with these people that have the same problems he has. Again, I don't like to use that word. And he says there's just a great spirit of unity where you can look at these people and say, okay, they did it, I can do it. I'm doing it, they can do it, that type of thing. And that feeds that tiger. Again, like you said, great comment.
Yeah, it's community. There's no point hanging around with the people who are not for recovery or not supporting recovery or not chasing recovery or not going after recovery, because they're going to encourage you to go down that path of feeding the other tiger. In the book, there's a chapter about creating your right community, building the right community. I call it a recovery community. And when I was researching that chapter, I found a book that was called Connected. And the book had amazing research done by two scientists. I want to plug their book, and I want to make sure that anyone who's listening might be able to find it if they want. Connected, the book. I'm just Googling it.
Mhm.
Okay. It is called Connected, and it was by two amazing scientists. I think they were psychologists or in that space. One of them is called Nicholas Christakis, and the other one is called James Fowler. And what they discovered is that there's this saying you may have heard, you hear a lot in the personal development world. You're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And it's only part of the picture. What they have found is that you're also the average of the 5 people that those 5 people spend the most time with. And then it goes one layer back that those 5 people spend the most time with. So by the time you spend 1 week with the 5 people you spend the most of the time with, you're actually being influenced by about 125 people.
Wow.
And that's really important to know, because if you're a diabetic who also has high blood pressure and you continue to hang out in places where people eat too much McDonald's or drink too many sodas and you're trying to break the habit, it's a lot harder to break the habit, because the community that you hang out with could be amazing people, could be fantastic company, but could be also making it a lot harder for you to break those habits. And then with regards to the other parts of recovery, it's the same thing. If you're hanging around people who are downers all the time, who are negative, who focus on problems, who complain, who whinge, who moan, then you're more likely to be influenced in that way. And what they say is you don't need to cut people off and just forget they ever existed. What you need to do is just move your time, the time you allocate, to another community where it's more uplifting, supportive, encouraging, where they understand you, where they've been through what you've been through, where they can shine the light. And that's what a support group does, right? That's exactly what the stroke support group does. A group you never knew of, you never hung out with, you never attended. All you've done is shift a few hours a week and you just allocated them to there. All of a sudden, now you're speaking with one person, and that one person is influenced by a whole bunch of other people above them, and they're potentially all going through something similar or recovering, and you're getting a quicker path to recovery because now you're being influenced by the people who are benefiting, who are supportive of a recovery. Do you know? So you can very easily shift the balance without a lot of energy towards recovery just by changing the small component of time that you spend in this new space instead of the old space.
That makes sense.
And churches are great for that. Stroke forums, online communities, they're all good for that. What I love about the church is faith. Now, regardless of whether or not you're very religious, whether you believe in Jesus, whether you believe in God and any of those things, that word faith, I think, is a really important word, because if you learn faith in a religious setting, to break it down, just for the sake of conversation, very basically, what we're being told is to believe in something that happened 2,000 years ago
Mhm.
for the good of humanity, and also to believe in something that we can't see, God.
Right.
And there's a whole bunch of learning and lessons that come with that, that if you do this, then you get that result. If you do that, you'll get that result. And it's kind of like a guiding light for how to get great outcomes in life. And I think without religion, I'm not sure if faith can be practiced so deeply, if you can practice faith so deeply without that foundational um, part of faith that religion kind of requests of you or asks of you or makes you go to. And if you could take faith and develop your faith in your recovery, even if you can't see it in the future, even if you don't believe that it'll happen, even if you don't know what the future holds, but you have faith that it could happen and that it's worth going after, then you might manifest it. Like, it might occur. It's a good thing to put your faith in a potential, your own self, to be able to overcome all the challenges and be the kind of person that you want them to be, even if it's hard, if you've never believed in yourself before. Might be a good time to start practicing faith.
Right. And I think even little acts along those lines, like doing what your physical therapist tells you, is faith, because you don't know the result. You can't see that this is going to happen because this. You just trust him and have faith in her, and you do what they say. You know, I was at physical therapy once, and my therapist was having me, I don't know, just something. And there was another guy in the room working with his therapist, and he just shouted at her, "I can't stand up. You don't know what it's like. You never had a stroke." And was like fighting against her. And I couldn't understand that mindset. I was like, dude, she is trying to help you. Do what she says. So again, I don't know if it was my faith that I had before the stroke or what, but if a doctor told me to do something, I did it because I thought, okay, they do this for a living, went to school for this, they work with these people, they know if I do X, Y will be the result. And so I'm going to do it. And so I still do that. I mean, I'm not totally recovered. I hope to be one day, but I'm still doing X, Y, Z because I hope the results are what I want. Faith.
I love what you said about that. It's faith in other people. And it just reminded me of something that we do have. We do practice faith all the time. Every time you jump in the car and go for a drive, you have faith that the other person is going to stay on their side of the white line,
That's right.
you know,
That's right.
and they're going to stop at the red light, and they're going to give way when they need to give way. And I have to say that in my time of driving, I'm 50 this year, a very high percentage, more than 99.999% of the time, people have done exactly what I had faith in them that they would do, which is stay in the right side of the road and brake when they needed to and stop at the stop
Right.
sign and give me way. So it is a fascinating thing. We do practice it more often than we think. And
Yeah.
when you get on public transport, you have faith that it'll turn up, that it's going
Right.
to take you to your destination. Okay. So there you go.
Absolutely.
That's a great way to think about it. I'm wondering, Deven, what was one of the hardest things about stroke for you?
Hardest, um, losing my ability to play the piano for sure. I still will cry about that one. I will go to church now and hear the organ playing and just weep because I used to be able to do that. And I loved it. I mean, it was my passion. I loved playing the piano and playing the organ, and I've lost it. I haven't lost it. I still do it, but it's just not quite the same one-handed. There's plenty of concertos and pieces out there for one-handed piano, but it's not the same. So by far, it has been losing that ability. But again, I just keep plowing because I can't change that, and I don't want to sit in a dark room and cry and say, "I miss the piano," because that won't solve anything. But I can do my exercises on my fingers and my hands, and maybe someday it'll come back. I'm hoping. I see other stroke survivors who are further out than I am that have full use of their hands, And there's even some things we're looking into to assist medically and technologically and stuff like that. And we're doing all I can. I want to do everything I can to get it back.
Yeah, I love the medical assistance is important to go after if you can manage it. We recently did an interview about that etanercept injection that is being widely discussed, especially for people living in the United States, which is a medication that gets used for reducing inflammation in people with rheumatoid arthritis. And what they found was that it improves some neurological conditions for some people, not for everybody. And I did an episode probably about 5 or 6 episodes ago where I interviewed somebody who flew from New Zealand to Florida to chat with Dr. Tobinick to have the injection and had a positive result. Went from not being able to work to being able to work and teach again. And then there's also some people that have had the injection and it hasn't worked for. But then I also interviewed a gentleman, Dr. Amir Hadani, who does scientific research in oxygen therapy, hyperbaric oxygen therapy, and some of the positive results that they received with that. Now, none of these procedures are cheap. None of them are cheap, but they're worth knowing about for people in future in case people who can't manage it, fund it now, might be able to manage it in the future. So that's really good. And then there's also those robotic devices that you can invest in to put on your hand to help train it to open and close and develop new neural pathways and see if that can help. Are you able to talk about any of the things that you're considering or thinking about?
Yes, well, I have a Bias for my leg. It shoots out electronic. Maybe you're familiar with Bias, but it helps you walk. And I help in those. I have a STEM machine I use with my hands, the same one they use in the machine. But I don't know if you've heard much about Vivistem.
No.
It is I'm going to Los Angeles next month to UCLA actually to meet with a doctor who uses what it is I've read all about it. You can Google Vivistem, Vivistem, and it is a device they insert, I guess, better word, about on your collarbone, the opposite side of your affected side. And it connects to a nerve in your brain that operates your arm. And then, from what I read, there's a remote control that a therapist uses to stimulate the arm and make it work. And the results are amazing. YouTube has tons of videos before and after. And so I'm going down to LA next month for a consultation to see if I can get that done. The fight with my insurance company will then pursue to see who pays for it. But we're gonna look into that to see if it's something that's worth it.
That's a great idea. What's the procedure called?
I don't know the procedure, but the name of the thing is a Vivistem. Vivistem.
VIVIS.
I spelled it right.
T.
Vivistem. STIM.
Vivistim. Okay.
And the FDA has approved it, and they've had remarkable success with people who have seizures, both with epilepsy and other reasons for seizures. But they've started applying it to stroke survivors, and again, success. So
okay, here it is. It is Vivistem is the first FDA-approved neurostimulation device to pair VNS with your rehabilitation therapy and daily activities. The pairing helps strengthen the brain connections needed to improve hand and arm function. It's the only system of its kind, and it is proven safe and effective. Okay. So that doesn't tell me much, but I understand what it does. It's one of those stimulation devices like you Well, it's similar in a way to the Bioniss. That's
Yeah,
what the Bioniss does, but
correct,
for the leg. Okay.
correct. And this is for the arm. So
Yeah. Excellent.
let's,
Well, I think people will be interested to hear about that. So
yeah,
maybe they'll get curious and start Googling it as well.
yeah, I hope so.
Um, what's something that stroke has taught you?
Um, on your Instagram page, I saw this and I commented on it. Is that don't believe your doctors. I'm telling you, two things happened that were just devastating in the ER. The first was the doctor came in and said, okay, you've had a stroke. You have 6 months. Wherever you are at 6 months, that's where you'll be the rest of your life. And it scared me to death. Again, no experience with stroke, no family with stroke, nothing, so I didn't know. So that was my first strike. Second was my brother came and saw me in the hospital and he said, hey, Devin, we know this lady and she had a stroke. And 4 months later, she was back to normal. Perfect. And I was like, 4 months? Okay, I can do this for 4 months. And 4 months came, then 5 months, and then 6 months, and false hopes. And so the doctor that said 6 months, and then on the opposite end of the scale, my brother that said 4 months, were both very difficult lessons for me. The lesson is each stroke survivor has its own recovery. There's no rubber stamp, there's no normal, it's all individual because the brain is so individualized and the damage that's done, whether from a hemorrhagic or from ischemic, is so individualized. So my own brain is recovering on my own time. And that 6 month garbage, oh no, I don't know why doctors say that. I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know why either. Um, your brother was trying to do the right thing as well, wasn't he? He was trying to encourage you and tell you.
Yes. He wasn't being mean or anything, and his story is true. This lady had stroke 4 months, she was
Mm.
fine. Great, good for her.
Yeah.
Not me. That's all
Yep.
right.
Yep. What would you say to stroke survivors who are listening that might be going through their own struggles at the moment?
Again, don't feed the pity party tiger. Feed the strong tiger. Feed the tiger you want to win. My goodness. In my stroke support group, it's on Zoom, so I see just the faces of all these people from all over the world, actually. And some people are, they just look sad, they look defeated, they look like they're not going to win. Every comment out of their mouth is negative, and I know it's easy to feel that way. I know you've had a brain bleed and I've had a stroke, and your mind just slips into that depression sometimes. But my goodness, you've got to keep positive and you've got to keep going. If I could go back to myself 2 years ago, what would I say to him? I'd say, just wait, it gets better, it gets better, it gets better. And it doesn't seem like it's going to. So that's what I would say to any stroke survivor. At the rehab hospital I actually was in for 3 weeks, they have a program where stroke survivors go and visit patients in the hospital who have had stroke. And I'm in the process of signing up to do that and getting all the releases and everything. But that's going to be my message. It's just wait. If you 2 years from now could talk to you, they'll tell you to just hold on. It gets better. It gets better.
Deven, thank you so much for reaching out to be a podcast. Thank you for your comments on my Instagram page. I really appreciate you sharing your story. Um, best of luck with everything.
Thank you. Thank you. And to you too. You book everything. Congratulations. This has been a pleasure. I enjoyed it.
Well, thanks again for joining us on today's episode. I do hope you picked up some useful bits of information from my chat with Deven. If you're interested in my book about stroke recovery, you can grab a copy on Amazon by visiting recoveryafterstroke.com/book. To learn more about my guests, including links to their social media and to download the full interview transcript, head over to recoveryafterstroke.com/episodes. A huge thank you to everyone who has left a review. It means the world to me. Reviews are crucial for podcasts to thrive, and your feedback helps others find this valuable content making their stroke recovery journey a little easier. If you haven't left a review, please consider leaving a 5-star rating and a few words about what the show means to you on iTunes or Spotify. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment below. Like the episode and subscribe to the show on your preferred platform to get notifications of future episodes. If you are a stroke survivor with a story to share, come and join me on the show. The interviews are not scripted. You do not have to plan for them. Just be yourself and share your experience to help others in similar situations. If you have a commercial product that supports stroke survivors in their recovery, you can join me on a sponsored episode of the show. Just visit recoveryafterstroke.com/contact, fill out the form, and I'll get back to you with details about how we can connect via Zoom. Thank you once again for being here, listening, participating. I truly appreciate you. See you on the next episode.
Importantly, we present many podcasts designed to give you an insight and understanding into the experiences of other individuals. Opinions and treatment protocols discussed during any podcast are the individual's own experience, and we do not necessarily share the same opinion, nor do we recommend any treatment protocol discussed. All content on this website and any linked blog, podcast, or video material controlled this website or content is created and produced for informational purposes only and is largely based on the personal experience of Bill Gasiamis. The content is intended to complement your medical treatment and support healing. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice and should not be relied on as health advice. The information is general and may not be suitable for your personal injuries, circumstances, or health objectives. Do not use our content as a standalone resource to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease for therapeutic purposes or as a substitute for the advice of a health professional. Never delay seeking advice or disregard the advice of a medical professional, your doctor, or your rehabilitation program based on our content. If you have any questions or concerns about your health or medical condition, please seek guidance from a doctor or other medical professional. If you are experiencing a health emergency or think you might be, call 000 if in Australia, or your local emergency number immediately for emergency assistance, or go to the nearest hospital emergency department. Medical information changes constantly. While we aim to provide current, quality information in our content, we do not provide any guarantees and assume no legal liability or responsibility for the accuracy, currency, or completeness of the content. If you choose to rely on any information within our content, you do so solely at your own risk. We are careful with links we provide. However, third-party links from our website are followed at your own risk, and we are not responsible for any information you find there.